My name is Beth Kigel. I am a national practice consultant and vice president with HNTB Corporation. And HNTB is a firm that works with transportation agencies, cities, localities, and helps them in the visioning, planning, design work, and overseeing project implementation for their transportation infrastructure and networks. And really thrilled to be here this morning to moderate this panel, The Coastal Frontier of Regional Transportation. Thank you, CoMotion, for having all of us. It's entitled Coastal Frontier because, in a way, we're exploring our coast and discussing innovative approaches to utilization of our waterways for transportation. We often talk about the need for carbon reduction and relieving our roadways of congestion, particularly in our more populous areas, which in many ways happens to include our coastal cities. But we're typically discussing efficiency and movement on the ground and along our roadways to relieve congestion, but you've also heard a lot through CoMotion about air taxis and drones, and of course electrification is a part of that discussion as well. But in this session, we're going to explore the water and our coastline with respect to innovation. In particular, we're going to discuss how can we transport people and goods in innovative ways between our coastal cities and explore the benefits and impacts of that. We'll also hear about how our seaports can play a role, but we're also going to hear about how seaports can actually be a destination in and of itself. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists today. We've got Michael Galvin, who is the Director of Waterfront and Commercial Real Estate for the Port of Los Angeles. And then directly to my left, we have Adam Triolo, who's Vice President of Business Development for REGENT. So why don't we welcome them this morning. So I think to get started, we could perhaps do a little bit of self-introduction about both yourself and your organization. And Michael, if you wouldn't mind, I will turn the microphone over to you.
Sure, thank you, Beth, and thanks for having us today. Mike Galvin, I'm with the Port of Los Angeles, Director of Waterfront and Commercial Real Estate, in charge of really the visitor serving side of the business at the Port of LA. So the Port of LA is the largest container port in the Western Hemisphere, but also very focused on a budding visitor serving development that is taking place both in the communities of San Pedro and Wilmington, where we have deindustrialized 400 acres, and really trying to connect better with our local communities, the region, domestic and international tourists that are coming to the LA area, and wanting to connect both on the land side and the water side. So that is critical, and that's where we land ourselves in this role here today, talking about better ways to connect the water.
Thank you, Michael. Adam, how about you?
My name is Adam Triolo. My background's actually in aviation. I work for a company called REGENT, based out of Rhode Island. We're building all-electric wing-in ground effect seagliders. That looks a lot like a seaplane, but it's a boat, actually. I believe we have a video that we can run. Is now a good time to do that?
Let's roll a video.
So there it is. Our vessel is called a seaglider. It's the brainchild of Billy Tallheimer and Mike Klinker. Both our co-founders hold advanced degrees from MIT, and they worked in the eVTOL space with Boeing before they started this venture. And really, they saw two major challenges associated with the eVTOL space. Number one was range, and number two was payload. So they came up with this novel vessel that you saw a second ago that floats, foils, and flies. So when we're near the dock and in the no-wake zone, we float on our hull. When we proceed away from the dock and into a busy harbor, we can rise up onto our hydrofoil. And once clear of the busy shipping lanes and thoroughfares, we can come up onto our wing. This is actually the first time that we know of where a wing and ground effect vessel transitioned from hydrofoil to flight and back again. So what you just saw was our quarter scale prototype. It weighs about 350 pounds. It will be the baby brother to what will one day be our full scale model. We start production on that this year. 60-foot wingspan, 3,500 pounds of payload, and most importantly, 180 statute miles on end-of-life batteries. So we're super excited about this vessel, super excited about this company, and I'd love to tell you more about it today.
So, Michael, I'd like to ask you the first question here. So we just saw the seaglider, which has a focus. Obviously, it has to connect somewhere. So ports seem like a logical place, but you have a particular vision for Port of LA and what you actually have already embarked on relative to the port as a destination and a draw of economic activity. So perhaps you could share a little bit of that vision with us as well.
Sure, thanks. I mean, there's two pieces of the port's long-term strategy that are really important here. It's diversification of interest and really building a very robust, diverse land use system that provides benefits to the entire nation through the goods movement process and benefits to our local communities through amenities that we're building out on the LA waterfront by de-intensifying industrial uses there and really creating this new visitor center along the LA waterfront. And the port is extremely invested in that. We have a plan called the Public Access Investment Plan where we actually take 10% of our operating income on an annual basis and invest that directly into public access infrastructure. And in doing that, over the course of 20 years from 2005 to 2025, the port will have invested total in infrastructure and operations, maintenance, and programming $1 billion into this large visitor-serving development that is now being populated by a variety of private investors and nonprofits that are looking at bringing more people to the waterfront and really leveraging what the port has already invested in through public access and investing in the unique situation of the port as a juxtaposition between the cargo business and all the technological opportunities to advance decarbonization there, as well as in other industries that are coming up out of the ocean, including aquaculture, including robotics, which this to some degree goes to, and connecting the dots of all those pieces to create better workforce opportunities for our local communities. And like I said, a very diversified portfolio, but in a decarbonized manner. And so that's why this is really important, to be able to find another solution to move people around the port, to other ports, up and down the West Coast, out to Catalina Island, in a way that does not harm the environment. So we're extremely excited about advancing this opportunity and others through our partners at Altasea, maybe as a location where technology can be further developed in this mode and others, as well as in our visitor-serving developments like West Harbor, which just had a big groundbreaking this weekend, which is all in tail, it's about a 42-acre facility that's built along a mile of the port's main channel that will have significant opportunities to bring in visitors from the land and the water side. And some ideas from the developers at this point are to bring back seaplanes that had historically visited the waterfront. So in talking through this with Adam and Beth earlier in the week, I said, this is a novel idea that really takes that to a new place in time versus going back in time and using something that is obviously carbon intense, bringing people back and forth to Catalina. So we see great synergies here for us to embrace this as part of our strategy to move people in a decarbonized manner.
Well, and I think you just recently had a groundbreaking, right? And we had a little bit of video for that too. So maybe we can play that a little bit as we enter into our next question. And I know you've got more surprises coming up as well, Adam, as we go into the next portion. So This is actually from your groundbreaking, is it not, Michael?
That's right. This is a groundbreaking that took place on Saturday. This is for the West Harbor project. All in total, it's about a $250 million project in the first phase between the port's investment into it, which is about $100 million, and the developer's investment, about $150 million. And you see the main point here is really drawing people into the waterfront area, creating these large-scale locations of promenade to be able to visit regionally, internationally, from the land, from the water side. We have a large 1,200-foot waterfront dock here, the biggest visitor dock that exists in Southern California today, because we really want to be able to accentuate how the port is going to connect the water up and down the coast and really bring in regional visitors on the recreational side that have not been able to visit because there have not been amenities here. So we had a really successful event. This is a project that's about 10 years in the making. Really excited they closed financing last week, and we should see a grand opening sometime in 2024.
That's very exciting. And Adam, I know you've been having a lot of conversations with seaports along the way. What kind of feedback have you been getting as far as utilization of seaglider to connect ports to other areas along the coast?
I mean, it's been extremely positive. You have to remember that a huge portion of the Earth's population lives in coastal regions. And one of the unique things about our zero carbon, all electric transportation solution is that we can really leverage that underutilized coastal infrastructure, specifically ports, and begin transiting people between those ports along the coast. So imagine being able to touch any city from LA to San Diego in under an hour, traveling at almost 180 knots. Imagine being able to get up to Santa Barbara from LAX via Marina del Rey in under an hour and a half. These are the types of opportunities that we see, and we work very closely with all of our ecosystem stakeholders, whether it's local legislators, port operators, local utility providers, to really bring in this, this whole host of solution finding. This is really a bottom-up opportunity for people to re-explore the way we transport people and goods around the world.
Well, and I think you did a little bit of work to try to, make this come to life, particularly maybe for the Port of LA. Is there something you'd like to show us?
Yeah, I mean, we've got some video that we'd love to share. We've made tremendous inroads around the world. We continue to build our relationships, both in Los Angeles, in Miami, in Hawaii. In fact, as Hawaii, if you use Hawaii as an example, Senator Chris Lee is going to be speaking right after this. He's been an amazing proponent of green technology. We're in the process of designing port infrastructure, actually, that can be quickly adapted to our seagliders and used as a way of, providing a bolt-on solution. Whether you're airport adjacent, whether you're using existing port infrastructure, these renders are actually of some of the new projects being built at the Port of LA. That features both our Viceroy product at 12 passengers or our Monarch at up to 100 passengers. But really, again, this is about engaging stakeholders, helping them understand how this incredibly low-cost solution can democratize transportation. This is not meant to be a transportation solution purely for the wealthy. In fact, just the opposite. Because our operating costs are so incredibly low with a vessel of this type, we can offer tickets at unparalleled value. I mean, think about 100 statute miles of distance traveled for under $30 a ticket. That's with margin. So a tremendous opportunity not only to reduce carbon, but give people access to transportation that they didn't previously have.
Well, and you also move cargo as well, or you can move cargo through that.
We do, and in fact, we just announced a new collaboration with Total Energies, for instance. We're working with a variety of offshore oil and gas, offshore oil and wind, and what we do is with our 3,500 pounds of payload on our entry vehicle, the Viceroy, we can carry all manner of personnel and cargo to these, austere locations to deliver, product at a cost that is orders of magnitude less expensive than the helicopters, for instance, that are operating those routes today. So again, tremendous value in what you can deliver with a product like this.
Great. Michael, I'd like to move back to you a little bit. Look, it's a pretty austere undertaking, what the Port of LA is doing, also very, very exciting. Can you share a little bit, Adam just touched on, he used the term collaboration, and realizing the vision that the port has, how has collaboration come into play?
It's critical, especially as we plan out infrastructure to the decarbonized world in the port, both on the visitor serving side and on the cargo side. There are so many ideas out there that are moving at warp speed, but need to be harnessed with collaboration because they're going in different directions, and we need to make sure that we're going to have the infrastructure and the demand necessary to harness them all and make them really commercialized in the port area. And it goes from all of the things that we talked about today, but especially anything talking about zero carbon relating to our bigger business in cargo handling equipment, drayage trucks, and decarbonize those supply chains as well as the visitor serving and other ship service sides of it that the REGENT application can really help with. But if we're not all talking about it, we don't know what each other's doing, and we don't know how to plan out that infrastructure because there are multiple users. This happens almost on a weekly basis at the port. We'll all get 3 or 4 emails and say, these are all the same issue that need to be landed at the same place to make it all efficient and financially feasible. So we need to combine these conversations. And without that happening, you would be planning in an echo chamber and putting these different pieces of infrastructure, or your community or partners putting them in different places at different times and not really leveraging the opportunity to create that higher level of demand. So it's critical that we're collaborating and having these conversations. I got here today and talked to various people that from different projects that we're working on today in the decarbonized future strategies, and it's really important that those conversations continue, or we won't get there collectively, or we'll waste time in trying to get there.
How about you, Adam? Anything to add to that?
I think that's very well said. I think, as an example, the legislation that we worked on with Senator Lee in Hawaii, it didn't call out seaglider specifically. It called out new modes of clean, green electric transportation. We really see this as an opportunity to work with other OEMs, work with other service providers, to speak with one voice and to find solutions within these individual demographics and regions to tailor those solutions to the people that live in those spaces. So it's a tremendous opportunity for all of us really to come together in places like CoMotion, speak with one voice, and really work to affect change and create the fertile soil necessary to grow these types of solutions in these different spaces.
That's great. Well, we've talked a lot about opportunity, right? We've talked about collaboration. Can we talk a little bit about challenges? What kind of challenges are you seeing in order to realize the vision that you put forward? Michael, how about you? I mean, what challenges are you running into?
They're probably the same challenges that Adam has. There's regulatory challenges, there's investment challenges, there's doing things a different way that is going to displace something else. There's all those challenges that come with really forging a new path. But it seems like, especially in the last couple years, that there are more and more people getting around the idea of resolving these issues and not just putting them off longer. I think we're at the point, that we cannot put them off any longer, and we have to have hard deadlines in the ground as to when we're going to get results towards zero carbonization especially. And so it's helpful that people have come around that, but they're all the typical challenges that you find in any development situation.
Well, and Adam, for you, specifically on the regulatory front, I mean, given the fact that, a seaglider, obviously it flies, and it also moves through the water. Is there anything unique in terms of what you're addressing as compared to, say, what an eVTOL manufacturer might be addressing?
Yeah, I mean, what's unique about sea gliders is they are actually boats and not planes. So because it's a Type A WIG, or wing and ground effect vessel, it will certify under the U.S. Coast Guard. So it'll contain all of the same safety characteristics that we find in today's aviation product, but it will follow a U.S. Coast Guard pathway for certification. When I think about regulatory changes, I really don't think about the pathway for the vehicle, because we have a very good system in this country for designing new tech, making it safe for the paying public, and bringing it up through that process to introduce service. When I think about regulatory challenges, I would echo what Michael said, and that is climate change is happening at warp speed. We either respond to it or be consumed by it. So it's imperative that our regulatory environment allows for new technologies to really begin to shape these new service offerings. And we're going to have to move quickly because the sea is coming up around us. So anything we can do to quickly offset carbon and provide new transportation solutions that are also less expensive for people to travel on, I think that's a good thing.
Well, and of course, someone like me, it deals with emerging technologies, both in the air and on the ground. We, through HNTB and working with our clients, we deal a lot with congestion, including what's happening at our ports relative to congestion and queuing. And hopefully, having this other mode of transportation for both people and goods that aren't on roadways would be helpful as well, right? Go ahead.
I couldn't agree more. One of the unique things about our space is that we're really eVTOL adjacent. We don't see the electric vertical takeoff and landing service providers or OEMs as competitors. We see them as complementary to what we do. So, our vessel will operate exclusively over the water. It will maneuver easily through busy harbors, and then it will accelerate, along the coast to move goods very inexpensively. So with this new mode of transportation, we're using, previously untapped infrastructure, previously clear thoroughfares, and we can use that to remove congestion from the highways, also to remove congestion from our airspace. We forget sometimes that not only do we have a pilot staffing challenge in this country, but we have an air traffic control staffing challenge in this country. So anything we can do to decongest and deconflict our roads, decongest and deconflict our airspace is a good way of better utilizing our transportation infrastructure as a whole.
Thank you very much for that. Well, time really goes by quickly, doesn't it? And we're getting ready to wrap up. So in doing so, I'd really like to ask each of you, maybe for a few closing remarks, is there something that you'd really like to leave our audience with today based on our discussions or anything that we haven't mentioned? Michael, start with you.
Really, it's just to understand that in endeavoring to find a zero carbon future, we need to find as many possible pathways as we can. The port is really focused on being agnostic as to which pathway is the right pathway technology-wise, because we will have failures in 4 whole pathways. And so we need to be really open-minded towards that and make sure that we're looking at all the possibilities so that we can get there. A closed-minded focus, looking at just one technology pathway is probably not going to get us anywhere. And so I would leave everybody with that be open-minded, accept all kinds of technology, understanding that some are going to fail, with the point being that we're all going to be successful in the end.
Thanks. What a great message. And Adam, how about you in closing?
I couldn't agree more. I think Michael rounded it up perfectly. I think events like this really give us an opportunity to come together, to identify what our common, opportunities and marching orders might be, and to speak with one voice in a way that allows these new technologies and these new opportunities to democratize transportation to flourish. So love to be a part of this, and couldn't be more excited about all of the new technology on display here today, and look forward to playing a part in it.
That's great. And we do have a little bit more time, so I didn't know if there was anything that you wanted to say about passenger experience before we close out.
Sure. We have some video that we'd love to share. At the end of the day, this is really about what is the benefits-driven narrative of seagliders, right? How are seagliders going to change the way people move along the coast? And what's unique about this platform, not only is it a wing and ground effect seagoing vessel, it's controlled in 2 dimensions. It's actually operated by mariners, right? So this first vessel, the Viceroy, will carry 12 passengers or up to 3,500 pounds of payload. It can operate off of existing dock infrastructure. Each window is about the size of a car door, so tremendous views. But what you'll note here is that with those electric motors, we're 30 to 40 decibels less noisy than a traditional gas turbine conventional aircraft. We have a massive cargo door that's standard on this vessel, so 5.5 feet tall, 4.5 feet wide. And with that 26-foot long cabin, that gives us the ability to really serve a multitude of mission sets. So you can see the Combi version here. That's for our offshore oil and logistics. You can see our Aeromed version or our Maritime Patrol version, our Search and Rescue version. We're working with the DoD on a number of projects. Our larger vessel is also coming too. So this is the Monarch, 25,000 pounds of payload, up to 100 passengers. So this is our 3-zone scope compliant interior. So when you think about the airlines, how can we service, networks that are currently being operated by regional jets with a product or platform that operates at a third or a half the cost of the existing modes of transportation and also emits zero carbon. So the Monarch is really that solution.
Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you, Michael. Very excited about what's happening thanks to the Port of LA. Excited about all the innovation that's coming and the ability to leverage our waterway for other ways to transport people and goods along our coast.